Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing great, following the 3H's of the channel, and in this video, it's all about some very strange encounters with, well, you don't really know. So, if that sounds like something you're interested in, pull up a stump with me, and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. This is something that happened when I was 15. We were out in the hills near my house. This is the foothills of San Bernardino. It's in SoCal, so there's no woods. I was with my buddy. We were sober as stones. We were walking on a dirt road that was connecting a construction area to our neighborhood. The road is now an actual street because it is connecting to a neighborhood. And for more reference, there are also many backyards facing this area. We are focusing on this moving light, wondering what it actually is. It's literally just a random motion light. We both feel kind of stupid because we were actually getting a bit nervous seeing it. We both continue staring at it while talking and walking. And then, two tremendous, dark figures, tall as the house or taller, rush past it. It looked as if they were floating, no legs to be seen. Yet somehow, they appeared to be completely material and not some kind of ghost. They were completely blocking the light for about 1/10 of a second each, and it was clear that there were two of them. It appeared that they stepped over the fence almost as easily as a human would step over a 3.5-foot railing. This is an easily 6-foot wooden fence though. The motion light is connected near the top of the house. There's no way it was something smaller than at least the size of the house, yet about as thin as human beings. I say to my friend, "Bro, did you just effing see that?" He mumbles, yeah, I did." I say, "Well, what the hell was it?" He says, "I honestly couldn't tell you. Maybe we should just go home, and it's none of our business." We walk in silence the rest of the way, totally abnormal for us. Years later, my friend's brother is taking a walk in our neighborhood. He walks downhill into a small valley. As you get to the bottom of this hill, there's a lot of bushes on the left. As he is passing the bushes, he feels something rush past him, in his words. He hears heavy footsteps, as if something big is running behind him. He obviously spins around to see what it is. There's absolutely nothing to be seen. Again, this is SoCal, so there's no woods for something to be hiding in or disappear into. There's just an empty stretch of fields between a bunch of hills. I've had a couple other run-ins with these tall, dark things, but I never did ever figure out just what they are or how they got here. I don't remember all of this experience, but I keep remembering bits and pieces as the years go on, so I'll try and fill in the blanks as I type. I was just a kid, quite young at the time, and very excited for my first camping trip with most of my immediate family, my parents and at least one other sibling, and some of my dad's side of the family, including his mom, my grandmother. When we showed up, we parked by my grandma's camper, which is near the lakeside under a decent amount of trees, to see her and my great-grandfather, who I hadn't met yet, and we just sort of chill for a bit. But eventually, my mom decides that it would be a good idea for her, my grandmother, one of the siblings, and myself to go swimming. We didn't go swimming in the lake that was probably 30 feet away, but to a fenced-in pool that was quite a walk away. At some point while we're at the pool, Mom takes my sibling back to the rest of the family and leaves me with my grandma. I don't mind because she's a grandma, and all grandmas seem to be pretty cool with me for some reason. A little bit after that, clouds started collecting overhead and what looked like a storm, like mostly rain, was on its way. Not wanting to get wet at a pool at a lake, we decided to go back to the camper as well and walk along the beach while we went. I waved at some guys who were waiting out on the lake. I have a habit of waving to strangers. When my grandma points something out on the beach, she says, "Hey, would you look at that? Those are some weird footprints." And the only thing that I can even begin to compare these footprints to are kind of similar to this old Creature from the Black Lagoon action figure that I had. I was a little bit freaked out at the thought of something like that swimming in the lake, but as I'm staring out of the water, the two men who are waiting out in the water are telling us to get back, to leave, that there's something out here that they're looking for. This is where it gets weird for me. I have a gap in my memory after seeing the prints. There were flashes of things. Pouring rain comes to mind, playing cards, and then someone in the family sees something outside the camper, and then a horrible face press up against the window. Then I sort of black out again. I wake up in the middle of the night with our family in the car being driven home urgently. I can hear one of my siblings crying hysterically to my right. It's so dark outside the car that we're either in a heavily forested area or it's a new moon. I remember seeing a deer on the side of the road at some point, doing what deer normally do when they see a car driving at them. I'm crying really hard for some reason. Then we get home, we're sent to bed, and then it's later in the night. My mom is checking in on me. She tells me, "Remember, you dreamt all of that." I think, what? And she maintained this, but there's so much that I don't get. If everything was a dream, how did I perfectly recreate my great-grandfather, who I hadn't met yet, nor had I seen pictures of? The circular pool and the lightly wooded area 30 feet away from the lake were both still there the next time I went. Eventually, my mom did confess that it wasn't a dream and that it did happen, but that's as far as she'll go. She won't talk about it. And as for my dad, I'd ask him, but at the time, he was a drunk, so he doesn't remember. But what happened out there? I don't think I'll ever know. I have this story that I'd like to get off my chest. It happened a few months ago, in 2023. It was on the 4th of July weekend. My brother-in-law decided to have a cookout at his house. He lives in the suburbs up in northeast of Spokane. He has a nice big yard and a pool bordering on pine woods. It's a super nice place, to be honest, but I didn't really want to go. See, I love the outdoors, and it was supposed to be a beautiful weekend, so I'd rather be out fishing or hiking, not sitting around a bunch of screeching children with parents too drunk to care. But my wife wanted to go, and I figured that, free beer was worth putting up with really badly cooked burgers and screaming kids. And when this stuff happened, I had 2 beer that entire day, so the fact I was maybe drunk is off the table. I've had a lot more and seen a lot less, if you get what I mean. My mind was as clear as ever, but those beers and lemonade went straight through me, and I needed to play fireman. Rather than go in the house where there was enough screaming to think somebody was being murdered, I thought I might as well take a walk. Like I said, my brother-in-law had a house that bordered a pretty thick band of woods. I told my wife that I would be taking a walk, and I started to head out into the trees. I'd had a good 3 to 5 miles before there were any other roads, or houses for that matter. It was a hot, sunny day, but as soon as I stepped into the trees, it felt like nighttime had happened. The drop was immense. I wanted to get far enough away from the house to make sure that no snotty kids could run up behind me and, see something they're not supposed to. You might be thinking that I don't like my wife's family, and if you knew them, you'd probably feel the same. We have many issues, and there's no need to add to that list. But the pine needles quickly silenced the raucous noises, and I felt like I could relax a little bit. I found a nice tree to mark and relieve myself. The only sound was the splashing against the trunk. When that stopped, it hit me. There were no other sounds. The no birds chirping was red flag number 1, but a weird thing that happened was I could look up and I could see the wind rustling in the trees, but I couldn't hear anything. There were no creeping creatures nearby. Despite the day being nearly 90 degrees, I felt a chill run down my spine. I turned back towards the house and started walking as fast and as quietly as I could. Pine needles make footsteps quieter, along with everything else, but this was not normal. As I walked, I felt like that somebody was pulling on my neck hair. They were standing so tall. Then, I made the biggest mistake yet. I turned around. I only caught a fleeting glimpse, but what I saw was enough to turn my legs into a blur. It was tall. It was peeking over a pine sapling, maybe 5 feet tall. It stood 30 feet behind me, in an area where the tallest trees fell away to a field of saplings that I had just walked through. I couldn't see its legs, but it was standing upright, with wide shoulders. Between the shoulders was a head that looked almost equine, a long snout with huge, flared nostrils, breathing angrily, eyes that looked to be red, and too far forward to be a goat or a horse, but too large and angry to be human. Worse than that, they seemed to be glinting, even just in the low light of the forest. Peeking out from behind its shoulders were papery flaps of dark skin, creased with bones running through, almost like the wings of a flying squirrel, or some such animal like that. That's all I could take in before I turned, and I bolted. As I was running, the only thing I could hear was my own breathing and footsteps. I didn't want to look behind me, and to be honest, I wasn't even sure if I was going in the right direction anymore. All I wanted was to get away from that horse-goat thing that I had seen. Mercifully, I could soon hear again sounds, splashing and screaming of children playing in water over my panting. Before I broke through the tree line, I stopped and rested, my hands on my knees, gasping for breath. I was never a star sprinter, and 10 years of marriage and beer hadn't helped, but I had escaped that monstrosity, whatever it was. It was back to being a hot July day, with birds singing, children screaming. I know it's very anticlimactic, but it's been months, and I can't escape that thing's red eyes staring at me every time I close my own. Does anyone know what this thing could have been? All I can think of would be the goat man, but that description doesn't line up, I don't think, and it didn't act like the goat man does in any encounter or story that I've read or have heard. So what was it? This happened in the early 2010s. It was back in high school. By that point, I had never seen anything paranormal, or really anything that was even out of the ordinary most of the time. I'd say the only thing close to that was one time I heard footsteps in my grandmother's house when I was younger, but that stuff can be easily explained. But I was always interested in ghost stories, the paranormal, all that stuff. My friend, but tell me stories of his haunted house that he used to live in. Eventually, I ask him about haunted places around where we live. A few places come up, but one of them is Western Pines Park. After some talking, we end up walking there. We explore the park. One jungle gym has a graffiti of big eyes with the term "Big Brother is watching you" spray painted on it. We end up sitting on a different jungle gym with my friend talking about whatever until it starts to get dark. Eventually, we're sitting in silence and listening. We hear leaves begin to rustle. I think, oh, it's probably just a dog. I ignore it. Eventually, I notice it's getting louder. I think, oh, it may be just a deer. I ignore it again. Eventually, I notice it's quite loud, violent, and frantic sounding leaves rustling. I look toward the woods and where the sound is coming from. And this is where things get a little weird, as you can imagine. Now, I have bad eyesight. I need glasses, and I didn't have them at this point. We were still waiting for them, and it was in the summer. It was just getting dark. So anyways, like I said, I have bad eyesight. I look toward the sound, the direction of what I can fathom might be where it's coming from. I hear 3 ting noises that sounded like nails hitting a metal pole. Each ting gets louder, with the last one making my ears ring. This is when the adrenaline hits my body like a heavy rain. Suddenly, my vision goes tunnel for some reason, and I can almost zoom in on this area of sound. I can see a shape dart out of the woods. When this happens, I can't hear any other sounds besides this. No birds, no sound of water in the creek, or the hum of the streetlight. I just saw this rapid scratching of leaves. My vision is locked on this object that has appeared. And a small tangent is that where we were sitting was next to a fenced-in basketball court, and past that is a parking lot. And on the side of this parking lot, a little ways, is a line of woods where this thing comes out. Thinking back now, I have to explain how my brain worked in this moment, so sorry about that. Like I said, my vision was locked on this black thing that was very low to the ground. Red flag number 1. It did not come out sniffing around like a dog or wandering around. This thing is moving at top speed directly to where me and my friend are sitting. Red flag number 2. My friend stands up. From where I'm sitting, I'm looking forward, and he is, and was, sitting in front of my vision when I am watching this thing. He stands up. He can see it too. Red flag number 3. What I see is there. He stands up because this thing just rounded the side of the basketball court fence. It seemed to be completely unabated by this and was still coming in our direction. I can fully see what this thing looks like, and my hair on the back of my neck stands up all at once. It looks like a human being crawling on all fours, but its legs and arms are bent at these weird, broken-looking angles, crawling like a spider or something. I can't even feel my heartbeat, but I can feel my heartbeat pulse in my tunnel vision. All I feel is adrenaline, making time seem to slow down, and my brain is trying to process what I'm seeing. It's weird. It's kind of hard to explain. It's like seeing a werewolf in real life. My brain just says, this is something that's not real. That is something that's not supposed to exist. Yet here I am, looking dead at it. My brain keeps saying that it's not real. This isn't real. But my brain also notices that my friend is standing up right beside me, looking at this thing too, and he sees it. After I'm done short-circuiting a little bit, my tunnel vision and adrenaline focus or whatever notices its face. I didn't see exact features, just sunken eyes and an open mouth that looked like an oval shape. Its head is twisting to the side, kind of like that episode of Family Guy when Stewie turns his head really far to the side, looking at Brian. At this point, it's close as hell, and this is the first time in my life that I have ever truly felt fight or flight. The only thing my brain can force itself to blurt or yelp out is bail. Me and my friend bolt as fast as we can in the opposite direction around the basketball fence. The whole time that we're running, we can hear the shh 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 of rustling leaves right behind us, right at our ankles. We get to a sort of bridge thing with gravel that you have to either drive over or walk across to get to the park. And beyond this park is a small neighborhood cul-de-sac type thing. Me and my friend think that we should head for that. We get to the bridge thing, and then we slide around a bit on the gravel, trying to keep our balance. And then we realize that this is the only other sound that we can hear. We pause for a second, turning to face the thing that's chasing us, because it still sounds like it's right behind us. We also maybe thought that we just got out of its range, maybe, that we were close to houses and streetlights. We turn around, and this thing is just gone. The sound is gone, without a trace. There's nothing there. I slowly start to hear and see things that are around us. I can now hear the trickle of water from the creek under the bridge. I can hear my own breath. My heartbeat begins to slow down. Me and my friend look at each other, and we catch our breath and decide to walk home. On that walk, we tried to figure out what the hell we just saw. We went back a few times in the daytime, one time even in the evening, but nothing like that ever happened again. All I know is that that single moment is all it took for me to see and believe in the paranormal. When you see something like this in real life, it's just really wild. That's the only way I can describe it. It shifts your whole reality. I will never forget that, ever. If anyone has any ideas or whatever it might be, let me know. So, what do you think those were? Let me know down in the comments. Do you have some of your own? I have an email in the description below that you can send them to if you'd like to. Also in the description is a PayPal and a Patreon if you would like to join or donate to the channel that way. Long time ago, I found a story about a crawler-like entity, but the weird part about it was that the crawler was wearing pants. Like they were all ripped up and stuff, but just the fact of hearing a cryptid wear pants or wear clothes in general is kind of funny to me. Like they find it and they're like, oh, this is so me. But for real, if cryptids start wearing clothes, it's probably their attempt to blend in with the rest of us, and that's just scarier than anything else. But anyways, I guess I'll leave you with the thought of a crawler wearing jeans. So, with that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, then maybe you'll like and subscribe. It helps the channel and all that stuff. And you can comment too, those always help as well. And I think I will see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump with me, and thank you for watching. Have a good week.